Hello everyone and welcome to our next podcast style video here on the channel. We're going to be doing things, as always, pretty freeform, pretty script-free here. We're going to talk about the Pathfinder nerf and my thoughts on it. I don't really think it's as big of a deal as everyone makes it out to be. It's still bad, but I don't think it's quite that bad. We're also going to be talking about the Mastiff, and we're going to be doing some anti-knee-jerking because I definitely had a bit of a knee-jerk reaction about it when it first came out, and now that what season are we on? 5? Has been out for almost 2 weeks now. Maybe it actually has been 2 weeks. I don't know. Time is a construct now that we're all in isolation. I've kind of updated my thoughts on it, and I wanted to share those with you here. Finally, I wanted to maybe talk about Octane just a little bit, since that is a topic that a lot of people have been asking me about in streams. They want to know what I think the update's going to be, what I think he should get, so we'll go into a little bit more depth on that as well. Today's video is sponsored by EA, so make sure you check out the brand new Pathfinder Retail Edition that is just released on Origin, Xbox Live, and the PlayStation Store. You'll receive the legendary new Pathfinder skin called Full Metal Robot, along with a Molotov cocktail weapon charm, a legendary skin for the Havoc, a new badge for Pathfinder for your banner, as well as 1,000 Apex coins. This is available as of May 26, 2020. Go give it a look. First up, we'll get started with Pathfinder. So, his grapple has been nerfed from a 15-second cooldown all the way to a 35-second cooldown. This has been met with a lot of pushback from the community, much chagrin all around, on Twitter, on Reddit, anywhere on the internet, even on YouTube comments. I guess that shouldn't be surprising, actually. It's everywhere. It's pervasive throughout the community. Everyone seems to hate this change. I'm going to go against the grain a bit here, like I seemingly always do, it seems, and just say that I don't think it's really that big of a deal. I mean, sure, the nerf is bad. I think it might be too much of a nerf myself as well. I do agree, but I'm more trying to say that I don't agree with all the knee-jerking of reactions that we've been seeing over the past few days or weeks. It's just been too much. I honestly think that Pathfinder's grapple was probably on too short of a cooldown at 15 seconds. I am not at all opposed to them making that take longer to recharge, especially with gold helmets still being in the game and still offering the same benefit they did at launch, which is making your abilities recharge significantly faster. So this just gives Pathfinders a reason to really want to use that even more than they had before. And okay, that's not like the best argument, but it's just one of the many little things that are going on here. I think that if Respawn were to change the cooldown of this grapple, I don't think they would knock it down very much from 35, like maybe 30 for example, but probably no faster than that. Reason being is that Pathfinder has been dominant in pretty much all metagames ever since the game has launched. He can do things that no other legend can do. He can move in ways no other legend can. He can move vertically very, very quickly and very, very safely and gain speed, gain momentum, have escapes, have pushes, just have so many offensive, defensive, and utilitarian uses from this one ability that it needs to be a little bit more of a commitment to actually use. That way you can't grapple in and then grapple back out in the same fight. You kind of have to choose, well, are you going to grapple in full commit, or are you going to grapple out and full run? You know, are you going to full send, are you going to full run, are you going to use it purely for utility? You know, just something to push it more into just being used for one thing at a time, as opposed to, you know, having a gold helmet, having what, like a 10-second cooldown, and then you can just spam the grapple over and over and over, and you just become very, very difficult to track down, very difficult to kill. I get it. I understand the want from Respawn to want to just bring back the scope of the character just a little bit. In addition, especially in tournament level play, there has been a number of teams, TSM comes to mind, where Pathfinder has just been a staple for so long and so long and so long. And for how he's played in those super ultimately high-level games, you see more of the usage of the ult in key moments, with using the zip line to go back and forth, maybe play above the final circle when it's very, very, very small, and you can, you know, just jump on and off and on and off and go back and forth on your grapple zip lines. Not grapple, just the zip line. And that seems to be like one of the major things that he's good for, with the grapple just being a small adjunct to make things a little bit more confusing or weird and try to survive a little bit longer in those situations. Again, going from 15 to 35 means that he can only do that once in that final circle and not perhaps twice, which maybe is too much. I don't know. I don't play at that level or watch at that level too often to really know. But the other thing you see Pathfinder used so much for, this is the biggest thing, is going to be his passive, which is to hack the survey beacons and give you information on the map. At least, again, at tournament level play. A little less so at high level ranked, but still very, very often high level ranked. Those are the major reasons that Pathfinder's played. It's for the ultimate and for the passive. The Q is great, don't get me wrong. It's still excellent and amazing and fantastic, and I can't say enough good things about it, but Pathfinder just has so much good in his kit for the team that maybe making him a little bit more centered into the team role and a little bit less of both this like this personal like this one character who can frag out and do crazy things all on his own while still offering insane team support. I mean, he was kind of on Wraith tier to a small degree in that way, where he could just seemingly do everything, and he needed to be scaled back just a little bit, especially if the rumors are true where his passive ability of being able to hack the survey beacons is going to be given to all of the quote-unquote recon characters, currently being Pathfinder, Crypto, and Bloodhound. If there's a fourth, I just don't know off the top of my head, but if that passive gets moved around and changed a bit, then they have to give Pathfinder something else on top of his already existing ability to hack beacons. I mean, again, they have to cut back somewhere. So I understand Respawn's want to do this, and for all the people that are out there complaining and whining, and I mean, it's okay to do that, but who are taking it to an extreme, right? Where like you are just replying to every Twitter thread, to every YouTube video, to every Reddit post, and it's just hate, and bile constantly. All I can say to those kinds of people are that what you are doing is literally just a waste of time and an assault on your own mental health. It is not going to help anything. It is going to, if anything, make Respawn not want to help you and not want to buff your character and not want to make them do what you want them to do anymore because you're being such bad actors about it. The thing is, and this is what pretty much every developer does, is that when you are working to balance a game, player feedback is very important. It is very high up there on the list of things you need to be looking at when you are making changes to your game. However, there are many other metrics you need to be watching, many things that Respawn and EA do not make publicly available to us, but Respawn has trackers on their own side where they can see how well the character is performing, what is their pick rate, what is their win rate, how often are low skill players using them, how often are mid skill players using them, how often are high skill players using them, what is their distribution on keyboard and mouse versus on a controller, what is their distribution in this region versus that region, versus this age group versus that age group, versus whatever. There are so many analytics that we don't even know what they have and what they don't have. But they do watch. And those are going to be one of the most important indicators of how a character should be changed, or a weapon, or a hop-up, or whatever the case may be. If you look back through patch notes throughout many, many seasons, you'll see that there are oftentimes notes from the developers on buffs and nerfs saying, hey, the community said X thing was too strong, or X thing was not strong enough, and our internal data supported that, or whatever the phrasing may be on whatever patch notes you choose to look at. This is a common thing you're going to see over and over and over, is that, yes, players said it, but our data also indicated, therefore change. Whereas they might, in some other instances, I don't know if this has actually happened, but this is kind of more of a theoretical, you might see a developer at some point say, hey, players are complaining about X thing that they don't like it or think it's powerful enough, but our data does not support that. Actually, there is a perfect example of that. There's Lifeline. So Lifeline has been criticized by the community for many seasons now, especially alongside the Gibraltar buffs, saying that there is really no reason to play Lifeline. Gibraltar has misplaced, or displaced rather, Lifeline, and that she just doesn't really seem to be viable or valuable anymore. But Respawn's data, at least from one of the most recent patch notes updates that have come out, has seemed to imply that Lifeline is actually in a pretty good place power-wise, that she is winning a pretty good number of games when she is picked, and that she is overall still seemingly a good performing legend. It's just the players that are complaining about it, but yet the people who do still play her still do well with her just fine. So there's kind of a disconnect between where the community thinks the character should be buffed, but Respawn's data is showing, well, maybe not so much. Like, we'll give side grades that are not really going to increase her power level too much, but just might make her a little more enjoyable to play and try to appease the people who are complaining. So you see, okay, we're going to give her the blue loot bins and the ability to get a little bit better loot for her team. And then, okay, that wasn't quite enough. Well, we're going to increase the quantity of blue loot bins that spawn, so we can try to normalize that RNG even a little bit more. And then they're just going to keep pushing her and just kind of massaging her in that direction, I feel, to try to not give her a straight up power increase, but just maybe give her a new little side tool, a new little thing here, a new little thing there, just a small tiny tweak here, a tiny tweak there, because the Legend is still really good. Like, your outplay potential with the Resurrection Shield and being able to bait people into pushing you, forcing them out of position to try to interrupt your resurrection or whatever the case may be, that is really, really, really interesting. Your drone allows your team to just not have to deal with carrying a lot of meds on their person, so they can keep one of their backpack spaces empty. So they can pull out a syringe, or rather they can not use a syringe, and they can carry an extra grenade, or an extra stack of ammo, or an extra couple shield batteries, or something else, since they can be so reliant on the drone. Plus the ability to heal your team up while you're looting death boxes, or while you're performing other actions, because the drone does not consume your action, is fantastic. The character does a lot of really good things. That being said, and I guess we're getting a little bit off the Pathfinder topic now, as things are just naturally flowing, I do honestly think that her ultimate probably is not the best and could use some kind of alteration to make just a bit better. I would be very much okay with that. It's not so much a huge detriment like it was in early Apex Legends, where calling down the care package means that every team in a 1 mile radius is suddenly looking at your care package and holding W at you, and you're going to get, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth party just for dropping your ult. It's no longer at that level. People have calmed down quite a bit since then. Third parties are still rampant, and that's just a part of Battle Royales. You're never going to fix that, and it's fine. It's just part of the game. But, the ult has been mostly fine. If you save it for end game, you can just use it as like a small kind of crummy piece of cover. If you use it in early game, you can try to get lucky on a purple armor, but if you don't get lucky on a purple armor, then you're kind of screwed and you just get nothing. I don't know. I've played Lifeline a fair bit in Season 5, and I've tried to drop her near Capacitor a whole lot to try to hit all three of the ult chargers, to drop 3 ults back to back to back, or if I find a decent number of like ultimate accelerants, I can even drop a 4th one. And I will say that I don't know, I've only done it maybe 3, 4, or 5 times, somewhere in that ballpark. And on exactly 0 of my care packages, I have gotten purple armor. So I don't know if I'm just extraordinarily unlucky and there's not enough data there, or maybe the purple armor spawn rates are just not very good, because I typically don't play Lifeline very often anyway, so I don't know what the spawn rates in these items actually are. I'm not sure anyone truthfully knows. I don't think that's like a data mineable thing. I think that's a server-sided value that we just cannot see. If I'm wrong on that, please correct me, because I don't know. But I don't think we can actually look this up, and testing it would just be monotony beyond monotony that I wish no one would ever actually do. So, I don't know, like, would increasing the... let me rephrase. Would decreasing the rarity of purple armor in these care packages be good for the game? Would every Lifeline team suddenly always spawn Capacitor and try to get all 3 care packages to come down to get the full purple for their team? And then what do you do on World's Edge, where you don't have any of these ult chargers? Like, I don't know. There's just... It's in a really weird spot with Lifeline right now with her ultimate, and I don't know if you're ever going to see something like an ultimate rework for her, something that might be a little bit more beneficial for the team, a little bit more consistently, but without being super overpowered, and then suddenly making every team have to run Lifeline to just circumvent RNG, right? So I don't know what the change for her might be. I would almost like to see just the blue loot pill rate being increased fairly significantly, maybe going up to 25 or 30%, and then a complete change of the ult might be kind of cool. So that way, instead of her being the RNG normalizer both in her passive and her ult, it's just her passive that does it, and then her ult can do something else entirely. I don't know. I'm not a game designer. I think Lifeline is in a very, very strange place right now, where she is powerful enough with her current kit. Like, if I play her, I can do very, very well with her. If I have teammates who are Lifeline mains with like 8k plus kills on her, yeah, they can do great, great things with her. But she is just not meeting the community's happiness standards or their enjoyment standards, or whatever you might call it. I'm kind of thinking right now as I'm talking about Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, actually, where every time they release new content for that game, they will, which is called Unearthed Arcana for those that are actually like in the know. They'll also release a survey about the last content release, which is usually, you know, a couple weeks, if not a couple of months after the fact. And they'll say, hey, you know, here's a long survey about the prior DLC, not the one we just released, and not DLC, but you know what I mean, right? And I'll say, hey, you know, go through the survey and give us feedback on what you thought about the features. Like, do you think it's overpowered, underpowered? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? This and that. And they get all this stuff, and that helps to inform them as to what's working and what's not. Because a lot of times, just because something is working well from a power or balance perspective, it may just not be liked by the community, you know? And they don't want to spend developer time on something that, even if it's balanced well, the players do not like. So I don't know. Hopefully Respawn is well, I know that Respawn is listening, and I know they hear you loud and clear on the Lifeline stuff and the Pathfinder stuff as well. Both characters seem to be effectively meeting the power standards, but maybe not the player satisfaction standards. And I don't know how much they're going to tweak either of them in order to match, you know, player happiness with power. Because they do also have high dollar tournaments happening for their game, and they do not have separate balance between tournament level play, between ranked, between casual. Respawn is not interested in doing that. They're not going to do that, I don't think. So especially if balance between console and PC as well. I mean, there's huge things there that has been a factor all the way back to Titanfall 1. So are we going to see changes here? I don't know. Probably nothing major, but I really think that people need to stop the public outcry, and if you can just take 20 minutes and try to write down something that is a little bit more, not even, doesn't have to be positive, but just more constructive, that you can then send to the developers and say, hey, like, I really sat down and thought about this for a while. I don't know if this is useful for you, but here's what I've been thinking, like, you know, and just present it in like a more calm and collected sort of way, and that will go over a whole lot better. Because if you're going to be a game designer, if you're going to be working in video games in general, you develop thick skin very quickly, I would assume. And they can take the criticism, just don't like make it an assault and just make it this constant barrage and just this constant meme that you run into the ground of, you know, lol XD, Pathfinder dead, worst character NA, like whatever. Like, I don't know. I'm not even good at being toxic. Like, it's just your brain just instantly turns off when you read this stuff all like day in, day out. And hopefully something good happens, but I just don't totally expect it. At least not to the degree that the community is wanting it. I think we'll get small things for both these characters, but I don't expect like major reworks. I think like an alt rework for Lifeline is probably a bit out of the cards, but who knows? Maybe they'll surprise us all. Next up, let's talk about the changes once again between Mastiff and Peacekeeper. I definitely knee-jerked on this last time we spoke about it. I definitely overreacted. I try to be the person that doesn't do that, but in this instance, I did it. So let's talk about it again and try to set the record a little bit more straight. Let's try to be a little bit more fair and objective about the change. And just give my updated opinions now that we've had this season for a couple of weeks, because things have been altered a bit, and at least from my opinion standpoint. And I'm okay with the massive change, honestly. It does not upset me anymore at all. And honestly, it probably is better for the game this way. So let's dive in a bit more. So Mastiff received a lot of changes. Let's talk about them first. It used to do 18 damage times 8 pellets. Now it does 13 damage times 8 pellets. Headshot multiplier used to be 2x. It is now 1.25x, meaning that each headshot pellet will be 16.25 damage each. These damage numbers total out to a maximum of 104 to the body and 130 to the head, assuming all pellets hit on their respective organs, let's say. Now, we're not taking into account low profile or fortified or helmets or whatever. If you guys want to do that math, feel free, go ahead, that's on you. But this is like the baseline of what we're looking at. And of course, these are not your average damage numbers. You're almost always going to be doing less than this on headshots or body shots, but it is very possible for you to do either of these numbers with relative consistency, especially versus larger hitbox characters like Gibraltar or Caustic. Of course, again, modified down by Fortified, but still, hitting a full 8 pellets on someone like that is going to be a whole lot easier than hitting a Lifeline or a Wraith with a full 8, even from very, very close ranges. So, realistically speaking, let's say that with your Mastiff, you hit 4 or 5 of the pellets on your average close range shot. That'll come out to, on body shots, let's see, 13 times 4. I should have redone this math, but I didn't. So 52 or 13 times 5 would be 65. So 52, 65 are kind of what we're looking at here for your typical damage numbers. If you hit 4, 13 times 4, wait, no, I'm sorry. I guess I already did that. You should do 50 times 3. So 13 times 3, 39. Okay, so we're looking at 39, 52, or 65 for like 52 being your average, 39 being a little below average, 65 being a little above average. Let's just say, and we'll just kind of accept that as fact for the sake of this discussion. So against white armor, 52, 52, 52 is a kill. 52, 52, 39, not a kill. Against blue armor, 52, 52, 52, not a kill. You're going to need to get at least one of those to be a little above average shot. You're going to need to connect 5. And that's assuming, 3 shots. If you go for a 4th shot, then you go for a 4th shot. And this thing shoots basically 1 blast per second. It has a rate of fire of 1, which in the game files is 1, which translates to 60 RPM, 60 RPM. So, 3-second kill on a white armor from like medium-ish range. Not super great. The raise and lower times of this gun are not super great, so like getting someone weakened with the primary and then swapping to this as a secondary to finish them off, not very ideal. You're still going to get shredded by 99s, going to get shredded by Prowlers. It's just meh. I mean, like, even an Eva has potential to kill you faster just because of the fire rate and the consistency of the damage. Like, sure, you're not going to hit much more than, like, in the mid-60s for damage on the Eva, even on a good shot, like a really, really good shot, but man, your fire rate is just twice that of the Mastiff, and the time it takes, it's literally double. It has a fire rate of 120 RPM, if balance changes have not affected my data sheet from when I last updated it, which they may have. I may have missed that, I don't know. But as far as I know, the EVA's balance has never changed, really. So 120 RPM versus 60. So, I don't know, like, sure, you can get that big one-shot damage on the Mastiff. Sure, it's just super consistent where people who maybe could never, ever hope to perform well with the Peacekeeper are doing pretty solid with the Mastiff. But you just got to understand that, just like the Peacekeeper, you really can't be playing super close range. When an enemy reveals they have the gun or your teammate calls out that someone has that gun, I mean, you have to just understand that they have it and play around it to the best of your ability, right? So if you're letting yourself get 104'd or 130'd by a Mastiff, then you deserve to lose. You deserve to not win your game, and you kind of have no right to be upset about that because you played wrong. Now, if you're in a situation where you hot dropped and, you got a P2020 or a hammer point and your opponent got a blue armor and a Mastiff right next to you, then again, that's not the Mastiff's fault. That's just, okay, you got unlucky. That's just, maybe it wasn't even unlucky. Maybe you just made a really, really bad or really, really dumb drop, and you need to be smarter about where and when you're dropping, or, how far away you are from your teammates, or whatever the case may be. So, there's always something else that you can point the finger at when it's easy to point it at the Mastiff, and yeah, maybe it'd be smarter to point it somewhere else. So, I don't know. It's just, your fire rate that with Mastiff, sure, it's better than what the Peacekeeper used to be. The Peacekeeper is currently now a bit faster than Mastiff at baseline, with I think 0.8 or 0.9 seconds for every lever action, whereas your Mastiff is going to be a fire rate of 1. I don't know, like maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe like with, even if the lever action is 0.9 seconds, maybe there's still like some other like downtime frames. I don't know. I haven't tested it. I don't really care enough, to be honest. Like comparing a no attachment Mastiff to a care package Peacekeeper is not intelligent anyways, so whatever. But just on the Mastiff topic, I don't know, like it really frustrated me at first because it was so consistent. Everyone was doing so consistently well with it, and like they were just constantly hitting me for 40 or whatever times a couple of players. You do burn down fairly quickly, but like once you learn just to play against it and position around it, I mean, they're not hitting you for more than, 39 on most of their shots. If they get a headshot on you, okay, so like what, 16.25, hang on, oops, calculator, please work with me. 16.25 times 3, you're looking at just shy of 50 damage. So again, like, if they manage to get 3 of the pellets on your head from a medium range, okay, they did 50 damage. They have to do that exact same thing 4 more times if you have purple armor, because they're gonna fall just short when you round out the fractions here. So like, I don't know, man. The Mastiff does not upset me like it once did. I think that I've just grown to accept it. I've learned to play around it. I've gotten better at the game, and it is what it is at this point. So whatever. As for the Peacekeeper, I'm almost starting to think that you might even want to give the Peacekeeper even more of a buff as a care package weapon now. You almost might want to bring it back up to 6 rounds per mag or something like that, because part of what made the Peacekeeper so strong, and this is going to be a very weird take, but I'm going to make it anyways. Part of what made it so strong is because everyone used Peacekeeper all the time, every single game, that you got really consistent with it and really used to it. And there wasn't really another gun that was quite like it, where you could hipfire people from the range you could with that thing and do as well as you could with that thing. Like, the Eva kind of comes close, but the fire rate just makes the aiming and moving mechanics just a little, like, they're different enough that it's not the best training for Peacekeeper in particular. So the fact that Peacekeeper is so rare now and in care packages, I feel like everyone's performance with the gun on the whole, even really good players, is going to diminish quite a bit, because you're just not going to be used to using the gun like you once were. Unless you go into training mode with a friend and you just practice killing each other with Peacekeepers for a while and you kind of break the rust off and get those skills back. I feel like a lot of people, even with the Peacekeeper being super buffed, are just not going to perform well with the weapon. And I'm kind of curious what the usage rates on respawn side for that gun might be. Like, are people really picking it up all the time when it comes in a care package, or are they letting it go? Because it's like, well, yeah, it's strong, but like, I'm just really hot with my Mastiff right now, and I'd rather stick with the Mastiff, or, whatever the case may be. I really don't know. I'm not sure, like, how long it's going to take Respawn to get enough data on that to know whether or not the Peacekeeper's in a good place. But I'm kind of questioning whether or not it's really appropriate in its current state or not. I mean, maybe it is. I don't know. I haven't had many opportunities to actually use it, and when I have used it, it's been quite strong, but it hasn't felt Devotion strong. It hasn't felt Kraber strong, It's felt like somewhere in between. Like, it's felt like the Peacekeeper... It's felt like exactly where the Peacekeeper has always been, I should say. So, should it be stronger or not? I don't really know. I don't have a good feel for it. This is definitely something that I want to hear some of your guys' feedback about in the comments, because I just don't know quite yet. Finally, let's talk about Octane, and let me be clear with this before we get started with it. I think that speculating on Octane changes and offering suggestions to Respawn for Octane changes at this point in time are pretty pointless. I don't know very much about game development, but I know enough to be pretty confident in assuming that whatever they are doing for Octane is probably already locked down and late in development, and feedback and tweaks that are going to be coming from either the community or from developers or whatever else the case may be is going to be very, 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 very limited in scope, because they've already committed lots of dev time and dev resources to making whatever changes to Octane they're going to want to make. So I just don't foresee any of what I'm saying here actually being acted upon by Respawn. So this is purely just going to be speculation of what we think might happen or what we might like to see, but don't expect any of this to hold any weight whatsoever, because whatever Respawn is doing, they're probably already decided on what's going to happen, and it's just in the process of literally being developed. So the time for feedback is probably already over. That being said, major complaints about Octane that I've been seeing are that his hitbox is terrible, which I'm not entirely sure I agree with, but, the only testing method that we have available to us is inherently a bit flawed, and, we have to just go with what we can go with, and, if I think it was the gaming merchant who did it, like, with whatever their testing method was is the only way to do it, then so be it. But, you know, I don't want to open up that can of worms on, you know, my opinions on whether or not the testing was perfect, because it frankly doesn't matter. It's just, you know, you can only do so much, right? And I think more than anything, the community probably latched onto that a bit more than they probably should have. I think that they ostracized Respawn and the character a bit more than they should have, given that testing. But again, whatever, it is what it is. We just have to live with it at this point. So, hitbox, biggest complaint. Next biggest complaint has got to be the lack of team support. The biggest thing is that, yes, the trampoline ultimate will let your entire team move around much more freely and get to places they normally couldn't get to and just do interesting stuff, right? But it's really loud. Your character's jump jets turn on and make them extra bright. They're very, very easy to see. You get thrown into a very predictable arc, which is just easy pickings for shooting at people. If you played Titanfall 1, you played Titanfall 2. If you played Quake, you played pretty much any arena FPS or fast FPS. Shooting people who are airborne is very, very easy. It's super piece of cake. It's like, you might as well be shooting someone that's standing still. It's really almost that easy once you get good at it and once you practice it enough. So the ult just tends to be more of a disadvantage than an advantage in a lot of situations. I would start here. Now, Respawn already has started here by making the cooldown only 60 seconds, which is really cool, so you can just throw a lot of trampolines down, which I think is a great start, but I think that we should see just quite a whole lot more coming along with it. So, for starters, I would definitely like to see something along the lines of maybe a mid-air accuracy increase or a mid-air damage resistance that comes along with taking the trampoline. So, if you're taking this ultimate for maneuverability purposes, in order to get from point A to point B or to escape or whatever, the fact of the matter is you were thrown in a very predictable arc and you're easy to shoot, and giving some kind of damage resistance would mitigate that and make it a little bit more attractive to actually use. Because if you look at Pathfinder's zipline ultimate, for example, using that to get in on teams or to escape teams or whatever the case may be, it does the same thing where it's really loud and your jump jets turn on, make you really bright, whatever. But you can spam jump use, jump use, jump use, jump use, and your character model will bounce up and down like crazy. And it's very, very difficult to get a really good beat on someone and get good damage, especially if they're trampling perpendicular to you. Whereas with Octane, you just die. So something along the lines of just a guaranteed damage resistance, or maybe you get like some free health on top of your current health that lasts for as long as you're airborne, and as soon as you touch the ground, or maybe just a couple seconds later as like a fallback method, then maybe like that temporary HP quote unquote would fall off. I don't know, but making it so it's not a death trap to get on these things, I think would be the first place I would go to help out the team with it. Is make it so you get a really fast cooldown on it, you can use it a lot, and it will give you some kind of protection when you use it. Alternatively, if they don't do something like that, then mid-air accuracy would be great, so you could only really use it offensively as opposed to as a runaway tool. So that way, if you choose to like bounce over someone's head, you don't have to use an Eva or have to use a Mastiff to have any semblance of accuracy in midair. You can use whatever gun you want, and maybe you'll have plus 50% accuracy from airborne, for example. So like it'll still be like relatively inaccurate, but typically speaking, in both Titanfall 2 and Apex Legends, when you aim down sights of the weapon while airborne, your spray pattern, I guess let's call it, is just incredibly inaccurate. So tightening that up pretty significantly, specifically after taking an Octane jump pad, again, could be really interesting and open up the game to be played in different ways, where if you're going to take the risk of taking the jump pad, which again, Octane is a daredevil, right? So if you're going to do a daredevil maneuver by taking the jump pad, then there's a big risk reward there. It's like your reward is, yeah, you get better aim and you can hit people from insane angles you normally couldn't. But the risk is that, you just get destroyed midair because you're an easy target. So there's a lot going on there that you could feasibly do that would not require a whole lot of dev time or a complete rework of his ultimate. As for his Q, his stim, I would really like to see that do significantly less self-damage. Maybe even something along the lines of, if you stim once, it does no self-damage. But if you start stimming repeatedly over and over, like in a very short time span, then maybe subsequent stims will damage you. So if you just stim once, let it run out, and then maybe like there's a 2-second cooldown to stim again, but there's a secondary 5-second cooldown where if you wait the 5 seconds, you don't do any self-damage. Whereas if you do it every 2, then it will hurt you or something. I don't know. I think that something like that could be really, really interesting. Maybe if you were to implement like a Street Fighter Grey Health style mechanic, where if you self-damage yourself from stim, that will always constantly be regenning, as opposed to, you know, the current system where, sure, it'll start to regen after a delay, but if you take any further damage, then you stop the regen. It'll be really interesting if your self-damage, specifically from stim needles, is always, always, always regenning no matter what. I don't know. Just something along those lines could be interesting to make Octane a little less silly, in my opinion, to play, where, you know, you're going to have purple armor but only 150 health because you just stim all the time because you play Octane and it's fun to press Q because haha stim go fast. Like, you know, just something to maybe like counteract that would be pretty cool, I think. As for a passive, I would personally really like to see something along the lines of like a quick champions ranger, where you take significantly less self-damage from explosives, so that way Octane can once again be the daredevil that he is. So he can throw an arc star in on an enemy team, and then, you know, he'll break the armor of a bunch of them, and he'll just like jump right on top of the star. He'll take very, very minimal damage. If he stims, then he'll just basically just clear the debuff of the slow on himself, while the enemy team all has their armors cracked and, you know, and they are just still fully slowed. Something like that could be really cool. He could frag boost, like, which is literally his lore, is how he lost his legs, is that he did a frag jump and blew his legs off. So again, that's a great, great way of just embracing the character's actual history and lore and making that into a gameplay mechanic that could be cool and interesting and fun for the game. It wouldn't help in tournaments, it wouldn't help in ranked more often than not, but it would be fun, it would be thematic, it would make him a lot more fun to play in casual, much like Mirage with his rework. He's probably still not going to be played in tournaments or in high-level ranked too much, if at all, but he's way more fun and engaging to play as now. So Respawn can absolutely hit the marks there without increasing the character's power too much, and that could be really, really cool. Finally, again, Daredevil stuff. Sorry, not fire stars, wrong game. Thermite grenades. Throw down a bunch of thermites, you just lay down a sea of fire on the ground. Octane just walks right through it, as long as it's his own, and just doesn't care about it. I mean, again, that could be really, really, really interesting. So, I don't know, just more side grade stuff like that. You know, maybe some minor power increases, and I think Octane could be in a really, really good spot. And then again, just to hit the hitbox thing again, I don't remember if Respawn has said that they're kind of feeling the same about his hitbox, they're going to change it or not, or if they already did. I honestly do not remember on that front, but, you know, that would also be a consideration as well, if Respawn feels that there is truly a problem there. But anyways, everyone, I think that'll just about do it for today's quote-unquote podcast video. I've been talking for 45 minutes straight with a couple of outtakes and retakes here, so I need a break. Final update here, I guess, before I go would be just on like weapon and legend tier lists. I am not really anywhere close to even attempting to start those quite yet. I want to wait until the season gets a little bit more mature before I start delving into those topics, if I even choose to do so at all, because typically speaking, I absolutely hate the comments on them, and they're like, you know, when you're talking about a weapons tier list, you're literally talking like 15 plus videos all condensed into one 45 to 1 hour long epic, right? It's just so much work and editing to get done. So, you know, you just got to keep that in mind, that production times and lead times for these, especially with a one-man team of just me, it's who has a full-time job outside of YouTube, is pretty difficult. So I will try to target them as soon as I can, but please just try not to rush me on it. I'm doing the best I can. I just want to play the game more, understand the game more, get at least a week or two on World's Edge with Loba and the new balance changes before I start going into things, because I don't want to make a tier list based purely off King's Canyon metagame. I want to see what the World's Edge metagame evolves into as well. So just keep that in mind. And lastly, the weapon tier list, same thing. I guess I was talking about the weapon one, the legend one. So legend one is same thing. Like, I want to see how Loba does on the new map. I want to see how some of the other legends with their balance changes do on the new map. I want to see if there's going to be a Pathfinder change coming. I want to see if we're going to see like a mid-season Octane rework or something, or more Lifeline stuff. Who knows? I almost want to wait until halfway point in Season 5 before I put these together, just because I think we may see a couple things coming they couldn't get out right on Season 5's release date that could shake the game up once again, and, you know, I almost just want to kind of wait for that update to see how it goes and get a tier list out before Season 6. I think that could be perhaps the way we go. But anyways, everyone, thank you for listening. Appreciate you all very much. We'll see you again very, very soon. Y'all take care.